Hi, everyone. Welcome to our opening session. Today we have a handful, literally a handful of people who are going to give us an overview of Ideal IT. So why don't we introduce I'll start with Danny, and you can pass it around to introduce yourselves.
I will happily do that. Thank you, Cynthia. So hi, everyone. Welcome to our session. I am Danny Ivezian. I am the Senior Organizational Effectiveness Specialist in University IT. I'm also the overall Ideal IT Program Lead, and I am excited and proud to be talking about Ideal IT this morning as we kick off Stanford WebCamp 2021. Oh my goodness, I nearly forgot the year. What a year it's been, hasn't it? So very excited to be introducing all of my teammates in the Ideal IT Leads group. We're going to do it actually as we present. So I'm going to kick things off by talking about the program overall. Ideal IT is ideal for the IT community at Stanford. It is the presidential initiative at Stanford is called IDEAL. It's an acronym that stands for Inclusion, Diversity, Equity, and Access in a Learning Environment. The E is silent. And from the very beginning, Ideal IT was conceived as ideal for the IT community at Stanford. It is about creating and providing innovative approaches for increasing diversity, inclusion, equity, and access across Stanford IT. This is the visualization of our suite of programs that we call Stanford Ideal IT. It is a CIO Council sponsored strategic initiative, and it includes the 5 programs that you see on what we call our flower visualization. You're going to hear about each one of these in turn, and you'll hear from the program lead as well. What I want you to take away, though, is that each of these programs is designed to work together. It's intersectionality in action, where we want them to be mutually supportive, mutually reinforcing, and cross-pollinating as well. Ideal IT has been around since 2018, and we are always building momentum and working to make real change happen. We think about how we do that in these 3 categories. We have programs that focus on building pipeline, building recruiting, retention, development, and career advancement approaches into how we do things in Stanford IT. We have programs that are focused on building community, like our affinity groups. They are dedicated to thinking about increasing engagement, increasing support, inclusion, belonging, and connection to the overall mission of what we're doing together here at Stanford. And then the 3rd category, increasingly important, particularly where we are in the world today, is building equity and accountability, goals, measurement, addressing policies, ensuring support so that the real change sticks. Before I turn over to my program leads, and you get to hear about each of these programs in detail, I want to set some grounding definitions for us, some context. And there's definitions to start. When we talk about diversity, that is the presence of difference. Inclusion is the appreciation, acceptance, and integration of difference. These are mutually reinforcing terms, and they are together the north point on the compass of Ideal IT. There's a metaphor that people often use when they talk about DEI, and it goes like this: that diversity is being invited to the party. Inclusion is being asked to dance at the party. Belonging is feeling comfortable and safe to dance any way you like. And equity is being able to pick the venue and the music and the DJ. You often hear the beginning part of this metaphor, but you don't always hear the second part, the part about equity. And that's really important to the work we do, as you'll hear from each of the program leads. Here's why it matters. Because 56% of employees demonstrate higher performance due to a higher sense of belonging. That 87% better decisions are made by diverse teams compared to individual decision makers. 65% of Black employees say that they have to work harder than their white colleagues just to advance their careers. 35% of ethnically diverse organizations are more likely to have returns above industry medians. And these are just a few statistics. There are so many. Companies with 30% or more female leaders have higher profits. 19% of employees in diverse organizations report a greater sense of well-being. And employees in diverse organizations are 3 times as likely to stay longer in their organizations. It makes a real difference. DEI not only matters, it counts. Preet Colors, who is one of the co-founders of the Black Lives Matter movement. She is a professor and an activist. She is the person who created the Black Lives Matter hashtag. She said this in an article I was reading in the New York Times, and it captured for me exactly what Ideal IT is about. That Ideal IT is about celebrating each other, lifting each other up, and bringing those frequently left behind along with us. She was talking about Women's History Month and Black History Month. And her point was that these are every month, all the time. And that's what Ideal IT is too. We want it to be how we do our work all of the time. So with that, I want to turn over the floor to the first of our program leads who will be talking about the Year Up internship program, which is a program focused on increasing access and diversity in recruiting. And I would be delighted to introduce Hope Johnson to take it over from me. Thanks, Hope.
Thank you, Danny. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for inviting us to talk about Ideal IT. I'm going to talk about Year Up, that internship program, this partnership that we have here at Stanford with Year Up. I'm going to talk a little bit about the program and give you an overview of what this means here for Stanford. So Year Up, it's a national nonprofit organization dedicated to closing the opportunity gap. So this is a group that is nationwide that helps serve underrepresented groups in fields like IT, business administration, and a number of different fields. So in the Bay Area, they focus on market-driven skills, technical ones included here. You see things like help desk, cybersecurity, QA, project coordination, Amazon Web Services, and HRIS. So the program itself is 2 phases. It's a year-long program that people in it go through. There's one part, 6 months of learning, where they spend their days in classrooms, virtual right now, learning about a number of things like communication skills, writing skills, and they start to build out these different focus groups, focused learning cohorts like QA, data analysis. And then after their 6 months, they come on to earn internships where they have practical experience working in places like Stanford. It's a paid internship program. So these folks are both working, usually they have 2 jobs, families and other things to take care of while they are doing these internships and participating in the Year Up program. Here at Stanford, Steve Gallagher is our CIO sponsor. So he is part of the CIO Council here at Stanford and is the executive sponsor for a Year Up program. I'm the program lead. We also have Martin Paredes, who is our alumni cohort coordinator. So he was a graduate of the Year Up program, and he spends his days trying to make all of the Year Up interns that come through here feel like they belong, feel included, that they're getting the resources they need to be successful, and includes time with the other alumni who actually work here at Stanford, who are employed and are part of the alumni group. So we've had 5 cohorts. The next one starts in 2021. You can see we had a bit of a dip the last 2 cohorts and the number of people we've had because of the pandemic, but we are continuing to grow that cohort. So the next thing that you are going to hear is you're actually going to hear from the Year Up interns who've been with us here at Stanford. So there's a video that's going to play next.
before I got into this career, I was working at UPS, worked at Whole Foods, doing a lot of the retail jobs. And I've always been a tech person, so I was looking to get into, tech.
When you first get accepted to be part of the Europe program, you tell them what you're interested in.
I was never a computer person or anything, so like I didn't know if it was for me or not.
Ultimately, it helped me kind of go into IT, like because I didn't know what I wanted to do. And then Europe was like, here are your strengths.
Not only do they do the technical side, but they also provide professional help for you.
They teach you professionalism. They teach you how to be in a business environment.
Europe is such a great program, and it really helps people that are motivated and want to work and learn. And I think that's the kind of people that need to be brought into these kind of jobs.
I was surprised they put me to Stanford. I was like, because obviously everyone else, it's Stanford, it's like, it's big.
I worked at Whole Foods for 3 years. Like, before this, I never would have expected working at Stanford.
I started to love Stanford, the community here, because everyone's just trying to help each other.
That connection is like really strong, and like it just motivates you to keep on working harder.
With Stanford, it's one of like the most healthy work environments I've ever experienced.
I would love to stay at Stanford. Like, I love it here, like the environment, everyone's so helpful, everyone's supportive.
I truly believe that Europe like helps those people that maybe haven't had the best circumstances and kind of gives them an opportunity.
My life changed, and I can't even look back. Everything that I thought about before, that I threw out the window and said, no, this is what I'm gonna do now. This is my career. And Europe, they gave me that confidence and they gave me that opportunity.
I think honestly, it's the best choice I ever did. Quitting my full-time job and just sacrificing 1 year for a better opportunity in the future.
The ones that do really put the effort in are the ones that, really do succeed.
I would just say take a chance, because it really does change your life. And then make the most of your internship wherever you go in terms of the company, because it's going to be a different experience for everyone.
There's so many opportunities that you could do, and just take it all. Take advantage of all the opportunities that get thrown to you.
Regardless of what the end result is, whether you get a job or not, you get the experience, you get the community, and you get to build your net worth.
Okay, those were the stars that have come through the Year Up program here at Stanford. And we still have some, as Sarah mentioned, she has Sal, who's working on her team right now, and learning and growing here at Stanford. So way back in 1995, when I was a secretary, somebody gave me the opportunity to build a website for the research institute that I worked for. Somebody opened a door for me. So this program, the work we do in IT is really important for me to open doors for others. So here's my ask for you. As you are thinking about how you can help, things that you can do, there's 5 ways that you could be involved with Europe at Stanford, or even if you're not here at Stanford, just generally with the Europe program. One thing you can do is let people know about the program. Most of the people that come to Europe come because of word of mouth. So tell people that young people that may not have opportunities to look into Europe. The next thing is to be a mentor or coach. We have WIT mentors the Europe interns here when they're doing their internship, but there's lots of other opportunities to coach interns while they are here, or even alumni. The other is just get to know them. If somebody mentions that they're from Europe, take 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 30 minutes, have coffee with them, virtual coffee, and just get to know them and learn about their work. Hire Europe graduates. This is part of our recruitment pillar. So 3 of the people that you saw in that video are actually working here now after they've gone through their internship. And lastly, you can just be a sponsor. every 6 months, we have a new cohort coming through. So just consider sponsoring a Europe person and have a star come join your team. With that, that's my part on Year Up. I'm going to hand things over to Brittany Kripe for Women in Technology.
Thank you, Hope, and good morning, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to come and share about our programs as part of Ideal IT. So as Hope said, my name is Brittany Kripe, and I'm currently the program lead for the Stanford Women in Technology program, or Stanford WIT for short. Bear with me as I see if my slide advancer works. There we go. Okay. So Stanford WIT started in September 2018 as part of the Ideal IT program. And our aim is to advance the representation, engagement, and support for women in technology roles at Stanford. And there's quite a wide swath of roles that are represented in the community. So a big range there. We are a very inclusive community. We're open to anyone who works in or has an interest in technology. And while we're primarily geared towards staff, we also occasionally have faculty or students that are interested, and they're always welcome to join us. Over the past 2.5 years since we launched, our community has grown to over 400 members. And in order to advance our mission, we do have 4 committees that are made up of volunteers focusing on the following areas. The first is education and training. Then there's connection and engagement, service and outreach, and last but not least, data analysis. So these committees put on a number of programs and events, including training workshops, discussion groups, guest speakers, service and outreach opportunities. As Hope mentioned, we have the WIT and Europe mentoring program and a lot more. So the best way to learn more and to get involved in Stanford WIT is to start by going to our website, and you can check it out. If you have any questions, you can always email me. So before I hand it off to the next person, I wanted to just spend a couple minutes talking about a few ways that we can all work together to become better allies to women in technology. And many of these things are ones that you can start to implement today. So the first way is to know the facts. So one of the most fundamental ways of being an ally is to simply educate yourself. Learn about the issues facing women in tech, such as the disparities in representation, pay, paths to leadership, and some of the common biases that women experience at work. There's so many articles and resources out there that a simple Google search will arm you with the basics. And if you go onto the Stanford WIT website, we have a resources page that has a lot of information there as well. The next way to become an ally is to hire and promote, or to assess your hiring and promotion policies. So building diverse teams means hiring women from all different backgrounds and creating a workplace where they can grow and thrive. There are several things that you can do to reduce bias in your hiring process, from recognizing your own unconscious biases to auditing the language that you use in job postings to creating diverse interview panels. And your HR team should be able to support you with this. I know that many of us are not hiring managers, and if that's you, then you can still help. Consider reaching out to the hiring manager on your team or your HR manager just to engage in conversation and learn about what the current hiring practices are and if there's any room for improvement in those areas. The third one is to listen and amplify. So some really common challenges that many women face at work include being interrupted, being talked over, or having other people take credit for their ideas. So something you can do is, if you witness this happening, speak up. If someone is interrupted, interject and say that you'd like to hear them finish what they were saying. If a coworker runs away with someone else's idea, then remind everyone of where the idea originated. If you see someone struggling to break into a group conversation, then say you would like to hear everyone's points of view and invite that person to share. And it goes without saying that when somebody is speaking, to really listen and really listen deeply to what they're saying and also what they're not saying too. The next one, here we go, is mentoring and sponsoring. So actively seek out opportunities to mentor and sponsor women and other underrepresented minorities. Even if the unit that you're in doesn't have a formal mentoring program, consider advocating for one or working to start one. Again, as we mentioned before, WIT does sponsor the WIT in Europe mentoring program, which is one way to get involved. And you can learn more about that again on the Stanford WIT website. And finally, support flexible workplace policies. So the pandemic over the past year has completely intensified the challenges that women have always faced, which include juggling the responsibilities of work and home. And many women, and unfortunately some in our own community here at Stanford, have been forced to make the difficult decision to leave the workforce to care for their children and families. So to support colleagues in these types of situations, you can advocate for permanent telecommuting and remote work arrangements, flexible work hours, and seek out other ways to help promote a culture of work-life balance. Flexible work arrangements can help create a level playing field for women or anyone who carries greater care obligations at home. And one final thing, one of the best ways that you can be an ally to women in technology is to get involved with the Stanford WIT community. Come to events, listen and learn, and get involved. So to that note, here's a few ways for you to get plugged in through our website, our mailing list, and our Slack channel. And finally, if you are interested in diving deeper into anything that I mentioned today, here's a couple resources to check out. I'm not sure if these slides will be shared at the end, but if they're not, feel free to reach out to me and I'd be happy to send you the links to these resources. So with that, I will say thank you and hand it off to Nora, who's going to talk about people of color in technology.
Thank you, Brittany. Good morning, everyone. I'm Nora Cotta, program co-lead along with Lily Lee for Pocket, which is the newest pillar of Ideal IT. Let's see here. So the purpose of Pocket is to advance the representation, engagement, and support of people of any color in technology roles at Stanford. And the past year, under the guidance of former Pocket lead Rodney Carter, in conjunction with the CIO Council, Pocket sponsors, and Pocket members, we've worked to create an action-oriented plan to address inequality and underrepresentation in technology at Stanford, with the aspiration to create lasting foundational change. And our hope is that what we build within tech and IT can be implemented broadly across the university. The Pocket Advisory Group, which is comprised of active Pocket members, is subdivided into 4 planning committees. There's Connect and Engage, which creates connections and help members leverage their networks, most notably this past year through speaker events. I'll speak more to that in a second. Data Analysis, true to its name. Education and Training, which aims to provide resources to further professional development. And Talent Pipeline, which generates awareness and recruits for career opportunities and advancement in technology roles and fields at Stanford. The overarching strategic objectives that guide us include the continuation of forming alliances with other campus groups to connect the dispersed working projects and cross-pollinate with ideas. We are, after all, working towards the Ideal IT purpose under the Presidential Ideal Initiative. And we want to increase membership and member engagement, both for awareness purposes, but more hands on deck to further these initiatives. Some tangible examples of some of the actions Pocket has taken are hosting keynote and speaker series events. For example, last year we hosted Sarah Soul, who spoke about DE&I efforts in the Stanford Graduate School of Business. We hosted Jerry Porras, who spoke about POC representation disparities in the venture capital and entrepreneurship industries. And most recently, Van Williams, who is the Vice Chancellor of IT and Strategic Technology Initiatives at UC Santa Cruz, who shared his insights and experiences as an IT leader and who is also a person of color. And if any of these topics interest you, there are event recaps or recordings on our website, so I encourage you to check them out. I am also so excited to announce our next virtual event, which will feature Maria and Siong in the career journey of an Asian American at Stanford. And I just shared the event information in the chat box for you. Speaking to this next year of Pocket, as part of our joint statement of solidarity with the CIOC Council, we have identified 40 actions that will be taken and are diligently working through this list. And now that we're in our second year of operation, we want to revisit the theme and focus of Pocket with those actions in mind and ensure that the foundational charters still ring true to the direction of the organization. What specific items can be accomplished by the committees? For example, providing diverse hiring resources for Stanford staff. A working group composed of a subgroup of Pocket and a subgroup of the CIOC took 6 weeks to carefully and thoughtfully create our statement of solidarity and commitment to action to address anti-Black racism at Stanford. This was in response to the murder of George Floyd almost a year ago now, and we haven't lost sight of our mission. If I encourage you to visit our website to take a look at the statement of solidarity and commitment to action. And I want to close the Pocket portion with a look ahead. We have underlying themes that encompass those actions, and we are going to be addressing topics like awareness, bias, career development, onboarding, partnerships across the university, and potentially externally. And with a solid dedication to this action, Pocket will be supporting transformative measures to increase representation and opportunities across the Stanford IT and tech community for Blacks and other people of color. So if you're interested in learning more about us and what we're accomplishing here at Stanford, I'm going to share again our statement of solidarity and actions list with you in the chat. I'll now pass it off to Anne to speak about neurodiversity in IT.
Thank you, Nora. Hi, my name is Ann Pinkowski, and I am the Director of Automation and Service Reliability, but I also am the program lead for the Neurodiversity in IT program. The program started in University IT as a pilot, and in 2018, it was originally going to be a 2-year pilot and in just UIT. We had our first hire in January of 2019. And the reason for that space there is part of the effort to bring people in it's dual. There needs to be an understanding on the staff side of what type of behaviors might present in the workplace. And everybody knows that what you don't know creates fear or a reaction. And so this is raising awareness about certain behaviors so that people can be supportive when they see these behaviors and realize these are normal. We also build awareness in the broader community. We hosted an Intelligent Lives screening 2 years ago, and just last week we hosted a Conversations with Extraordinary Leaders event in neurodiversity. We've held 20 plus, I think it's 25 brown bag sessions, reaching about 410 people to educate folks again about behaviors and to help them understand a little bit more about neurodiversity. We've also, at that point, early in the program, actually, LBRE came to us and said they were interested, as well as GSB, in joining the pilot. And so we expanded the pilot to include any IT unit on campus. We ended up having 4 hires to date, 3 in UIT and 1 in the Graduate School of Business as a result of expanding that to a broader audience. In October of 2019, our neurodiversity brown bag sessions were approved, Be-Well Berry approved, which means you get credit, Be-Well credits for your attendance to those events. Later, all of Ideal IT got this Berry approval. So all Ideal IT events are now Berry approved. And after only 1 year of the pilot, the CIO Council supported converting this into a full-fledged CIO Council supported program, which was awesome. 1 year, we were already showing how this was impacting not just the individuals who were bringing in, but the other individuals on our staff who are touched by neurodiversity in their life. And this general awareness and having a neurodiversity at work program was giving them a lot of hope and confidence for those family members and for their futures. In 2020, we had some leadership changes. Originally, this was sponsored by Ganesh Karkala and Jan Cicero, but Jan retired. And so in October of 2020, Michael Fox stepped in as our co-sponsor, and which was really nice to have sponsorship exist, not just in UIT, but in UIT and in another IT unit across campus. So our current sponsors are Ganesh Karkala and Michael Fox. Now, I wanted to shift and show you a video. All of the people in this video are sharing the impact the brown bag sessions have had on them and their perceptions.
The neurodiversity program touches on literally all of the strategic values in Steve Gallagher's new direction, but particularly investing in extraordinary people.
If we really just break down the word neurodiversity into neuro and diversity, meaning our brains work differently, we start to realize that this isn't really something that's too uncommon.
You probably already know a number of neurodiverse people in Stanford and wouldn't be able to pick them out of a crowd. It's not, there's no sign or surefire way, but when someone comes to you and they confide in you, it's important to do what you can to just help them be successful.
It somehow feels, if only we listen, we pay attention, we're mindful, we could be so inclusive of get them into our workforce and actually leverage them. I mean, ultimately at Stanford, we have to be innovators.
I think we might be a little surprised to see that there are more people out there in the talent field that we can draw from that we're not, because we have such strict neurotypical standards of what is expected of potential candidates that we're not really looking past our own expectations to see what could be rather than what is.
Well, I work with positions that are titled software developers or applications engineers or individuals in the DevOps world. And I think all of the skills for those particular positions fit quite nicely with the skills I know about for the individuals that are in the autism spectrum.
I think what I would say to others who might be interested in this program is to just go to the BBL. I know that I was inspired by it. I think it changed my perceptions, not just about working with neurodiverse individuals, but how I work with all of my colleagues, how I communicate with individuals on an interpersonal level. It really opened my eyes.
I think you'll end up coming out of it with just overall, hopefully being a better person and having some more skills that you can apply to your normal day.
Disclosure about a neurodiversity can still be a big deal for some people because they're worried that other people might think they're not as capable because of a given difference than themselves or a certain label that might be associated to it.
I think the most important thing about all of the Ideal IT programs is that we're actually teaching our staff that it's okay to just be yourself, and that, you know, however you present in the workplace, that's okay.
On a personal front, I have always dealt with subtle biases, be it because of color, race, or the way I speak and my accent. And this just felt like another area where we're embracing the difference and giving people a chance. So to me, personally, it is an opportunity to pay it forward. And I would welcome others to think about it from that perspective and see how can we embrace the diversity around us.
So, so inclusion for diversity and acceptance of differences, it's really powerful if you think about it. But I'm going to leave you now to 5 ways that you can get involved with our program. 1, let your neurodiverse friends know that this exists. Much like what Hope mentioned, you know, that's broadening our candidate pool. This is a recruitment pillar. So broadening our candidate pool and getting people who need or want to be heard and understood and accepted is important to us. So first and foremost, this program exists for the IT community and for the broader community at Stanford. Oops, went the wrong way. The next thing is attend a brown bag session and join our community of practice on Slack. The brown bag sessions are held monthly. We have a brown bag session actually later today, and we have another one on May 20th. We also encourage you to be a champion and an ally. If somebody is having trouble communicating or anything, any type of, you're sensing that something isn't right or is different, first of all, accept it, then help those people. And like Danny mentioned, you know, lift people up. It's really important to do that in every way that you see people being challenged at work. Adopt inclusive hiring practice. If you attend a brown bag session, you'll learn more about how traditional hiring practices really are not inclusive for this community in particular. So come to our brown bag session and learn more about how you can adopt inclusive hiring practices. And then finally, just be a good person. What Kevin Tully mentioned in the video, it is true. Just do what you can to help somebody else and help them be successful. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Danny, who is going to continue with the rest of our presentation.
Thank you, Anne. So there's a 5th pillar, the Ideal IT Foundations pillar. It's the strategic planning, coordination, and communication pillar. Really, it's focused. Sorry, I'm trying to get my cat to stop moving. Oh my goodness. It's the pillar that focuses keeping all of our program coordinated together and focused on these compass points of building momentum and making real change happen. In the last few minutes of our talk today, we wanted to focus on actions specifically for our Stanford WebCamp audience. Takeaways, things that we want you to remember, inclusion insights from our work as we think about DEI all the time. So you can't be what you can't see. This is a quote from Marian Wright Edelman, who is the founder of the Children's Defense Fund. If you've been to Teachers College, know a teacher, you know this is an animating belief through all teachers' colleges. It's the importance of role modeling. It's a thread through our conversation today about how we can ensure that we are showing the true rich diversity of our communities. Images matter. Because this is what we look like in the world today. We don't look like we did in the 1950s. And images matter because people are more likely to consider or even purchase a product after seeing an ad they consider diverse or inclusive. This is specifically about ads, but it does apply to web content and web development and web design. So these numbers speak for themselves on this slide. Words matter too. So the words that we're putting on web pages, the words that we're folding into our content strategies, these are some links. I said that we can follow up with links. There's inclusive language. It's about being mindful and purposeful about the words we use so that they welcome and bring people together. Using inclusive and affirmative people-first language to design inclusively, which means avoiding ableist language, avoiding gendered language, avoiding racist language and language with racist undertones as much as possible, in addition to being mindful about our writing using tools to help us be as thoughtful and inclusive as we can. Accessibility matters. This is a slide from a presentation by Sean Keegan, who is the director of the Stanford Office of Digital Accessibility. Sean uses this metaphor to describe what it's like when you design from the beginning with inclusion in mind. It's a better outcome for everyone, which is also one of the ways Steve Gallagher, Stanford's CIO, describes the genesis of Ideal IT and its raison d'etre, which is to make better outcomes for everyone by being purposefully inclusive. Another of Sean's slides talks about tips, and I was asked in the chat if we would share the slides, and we are happy to do that. So we'll do that after this session, along with those links, because I know I'm flying through these. This is a slide that I'm not going to talk about. It's a screenshot, shock and awe kind of slide from the UK Home Office. Tips and tricks for designing for accessibility, including things that you may not think about, like designing for users with anxiety, designing for users who are hard of hearing, in addition to the things that you might expect, people who have visible, physical or motor disabilities, etc. Checking blind spots. In the video that Anne shared, Swati, the assistant CIO in land buildings and real estate here at Stanford, talked about bias and how it can affect us in all sorts of places. Those are our blind spots. And since we're all human, we're all wired to conserve cognitive energy, which means since we have a brain, we have biases. Our brains take shortcuts. So being aware of those shortcuts, being mindful, asking the question, can I make this even more inclusive, helps all of us achieve better outcomes. Again, not going to be able to get to this point. This is Jennifer Eberhardt. She's a professor here at Stanford, and her work talks about implicit bias, that it's not a new way of calling someone a racist. In fact, you don't have to be a racist at all to be influenced by bias. It's a distorting lens that is a product of the architecture of our brain and the disparities in our society. So last point to leave you with, if you are not actively including in the web pages and websites that you're developing and the content strategies that you're creating, if you're not actively including, you may be and probably are accidentally excluding. So our call to action is that you become more purposeful about being an ally in general and in how you design. Because, as Dr. Angelo says, I've learned that people will forget what you said, people forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. So if you want to know more about Ideal IT and how it embodies this commitment that Stanford IT and the CIO Council has made towards providing opportunities for individuals from diverse backgrounds to collaborate, grow, excel, and lead across different functions and disciplines, please reach out to me, reach out to the members of the Ideal IT leads, or reach out to our website. I am so grateful for the time today. I know we are a minute over, so I will stop talking and say thank you again.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, Danny, Hope, Nora, Brittany, Anne. That was all wonderful information. I know we have actually 15 minutes between our next session. So if people want to ask questions, hang out here, we'll be here for a little bit. Otherwise, there are 5 more sessions starting at 11, and you can check those out at webcamp.stanford.edu/sessions. So thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. And we are happy to hang behind if anybody does want to ask questions. I'm certainly happy to stay, for sure.